way. Now, I want to continue to endorse solid conservatives who are running in the Republican primaries across the country for the Senate, who really have a good chance of winning. And I took a peek over there at Nebraska, and in the Republican primary, the Senate race, there is a great candidate there, the state treasurer of Nebraska, Don Stenberg. Don Stenberg, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, thank you, Mark.
Now, tell me why you should be the Republican nominee for the United States Senate.
Well, our country's going in the wrong direction, and Senator Ben Nelson of Nebraska is a big part of the reason why. And we must defeat him, and we can defeat him if we get the financial help we need for our campaign. In fact, we lead Nelson in the polls already, 46% to 40%. Now, Ben Nelson was the deciding vote in the Senate to impose Obamacare on our nation, and he made that vote in exchange for the Cornhusker kickback. We wouldn't have Obamacare today in our nation if it hadn't been for Senator Ben Nelson of Nebraska. He also voted to waste $787 billion on the failed stimulus, and just last week he voted to table the cut, cap, and balance. Ben Nelson was elected, sent to Washington, claiming he was a moderate, but he is very clearly a big government Democrat who needs to be replaced.
Really, on the big issues, he is a reliable Obama vote, isn't he?
Absolutely right. And he supported Obama for president. Going back a number of years, he supported Al Gore for president. He's a solid Democrat who, like some of the Democrats in the Senate, comes back to his home state and talks conservative and goes and votes with the liberal Democrats whenever they really need it.
Now, are you you're a conservative? Are you a Reagan conservative? Are you supportive of the Tea Party movement, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. Strong supporter of the Tea Party movement. Most of the Tea Party folks, as you know, most Tea Party organizations as such don't endorse candidates. But most of the Tea Party folks here in Nebraska are supporting our campaign at the grassroots level, and I appreciate that support very much. You know, as a state treasurer, I just took office in January, and in March I went to the legislature and asked them to cut my budget by 13% for each of the next 2 fiscal years, which the legislature was, of course, very happy to do. And those are real cuts. That's 13% less than was spent in the fiscal year that just ended. It's not the Washington cuts where they're going to increase the budget 10%, and they only increase it 5%, and they say they cut it by 5%. Mm-hmm. So those are real cuts, and I'm committed conservative. As the Attorney General, we had substantial increases in our caseload during my years as Nebraska's Attorney General, and we limited the budget increases to less than 3% per year for each of the 12 years I was the Attorney General. So I have a proven record of being a solid conservative, and perhaps my most famous case as Attorney General was the partial birth abortion case, Stenberg versus Carhart, which I personally argued in the Supreme Court of the United States, defending Nebraska's ban on partial birth abortions.
You got a great conservative record. There's absolutely no question about that. Would you consider yourself more of the Marco Rubio, Mike Lee, Jim DeMint type conservative, or some other type conservative?
Very, very much so. Once we defeat Senator Nelson, I look forward to joining Senator DeMint, Senator Lee, Senator Paul in the conservative caucus there in the Senate. I had a chance on a couple of occasions to meet with Senator DeMint and once with Senator Lee. And Senator DeMint told me that there's somewhere between 6 and 12 reliable, solid, no matter what conservatives, and we need to expand that. Membership of solid conservatives to get the job done in Washington that needs to be done for our country.
Well, I know there are other candidates running. Most of them are more of the establishment-type Republicans. I've done a little bit of research on this. So I would like to endorse you if you'll accept my endorsement for the Republican nomination for Senate, for whatever that's worth.
I would absolutely love it, Mark. And if some of your listeners could help us financially, we'd appreciate it a lot. Our website's stenbergforsenate.com, spelled Stenberg for Senate. And Senator Nelson, of course, has a lot of financial help from his big government friends. He's got about $3 million in the bank. We're ahead of him in the polls. In order to stay ahead of him in the polls, we're going to need to raise some money to be able to fight the fight with Nelson, because he won't.
By the way, I understand the running ads there talking about how Republicans want to cut Medicare. Didn't he vote to take $500 billion out of Medicare?
Well, he did. He voted to remove $500 billion by voting for Obamacare from the Medicare budget. I was the Republican nominee for the Senate back in 2000, and at that time Ben Nelson was very, very popular here in Nebraska, former governor. We started 30-some points behind Ben Nelson, and we made it into the closest U.S. Senate race in Nebraska history. One of the issues in that race was that Senator Nelson said, boy, if he was elected, he was going to take care of Social Security by making sure they didn't spend any of the extra Social Security money on other government programs, that he was going to put that money in a lockbox. And, of course, today every single penny of it's been lost. So he hasn't protected Social Security. But, yeah, Nelson's campaign is going to be to claim that, oh, golly, if you elect Don Stenberg to the U.S. Senate, they're going to take away your Social Security, which is absolutely, positively untrue.
Yeah, but I'm saying Nelson actually voted to take away $500 billion out of Medicare. You know, we got to go on offense against these guys.
No, Alan, we did that. We issued a news release. I don't know if you happened to see it, Mark. We tried to spread them far and wide across the country, but we just very recently awarded Ben Nelson the Hypocrite of the Year award for claiming to protect Social Security while letting all the extra Social Security money be spent out of the trust fund, and for claiming he'll protect Medicare after he's voted to take $500 billion out of it.
Yeah, he really is a fraud. He goes back to Nebraska. He puts on this moderate dance. The media loves it. Then he comes to Washington with a wink and a nod. You're exactly right. He was the 60th vote for Obamacare. He's always the 60th vote for whatever they need.
They always have his vote whenever they need it. And, of course, the Ben Nelson, he's been there 11 years now, and his pattern is if they don't really need his vote, he'll vote the way that his Nebraska constituents would like him to vote, and then he'll trumpet that vote. But whenever they need his vote, like they did on Obamacare, or whatever else comes up where they really need his vote, they can count on Ben Nelson to vote the Liberal Democrat line.
And he voted to kill the the balanced budget amendment.
Absolutely right. And, of course, that's another broken promise on Ben Nelson's part. He in the past has claimed to be in support of a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution of the United States, but clearly, if he really believed that, he wouldn't have been among the Democrat senators voting to table the cut, cap, and balance plan.
All right, my friend, you're listening. That's State Treasurer of Nebraska, Don Stenberg, former Attorney General of Nebraska. He's running in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate. He is the conservative who is running. It is my pleasure to endorse you, folks. You can go to stenbergforsenate.com, Stenberg for Senate.com. Read all about him and give him the support that, if you agree, that he needs. We need to send more conservatives to Congress. All right, my friend. God bless you. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
All right. Take care.